Sri Parna Bose, don't share your screen. Thank you. Good morning, Professor. Can you hear me? I am Dayachandran speaking. Professor, how are you? Can you hear me? We could not hear your voice. No, Professor, we could not hear you. If you're having headphone or earphone, it will be convenient. No, Professor, we could not hear you, but we can able to see your slides previously.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear.
Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Is everything okay now?
Yes, it is fine.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay.
And your PPT is also visible.
Okay, can I go ahead?
Yes, sir. I will give a brief about you so that our participants will be knowing.
Hello?
I will brief about you, sir.
Hey, good evening. How are you guys? I hope you guys can hear me. So sorry for the little technical difficulties.
We can hear you, sir.
So I assume like everyone can hear me. So I'll just go ahead and start presenting. If that's okay with you guys. Okay. All right. So thank you very much for inviting me today. I mean, it's actually it's a great honor to be here with you guys. I see that there are many people here. I see there are about 50, 70, 80% here. That's actually great. Thank you very much. Okay, so my name is Hafei Yu. I'm actually an assistant professor of environmental engineering from Department of Civil, Environmental and Construction Engineering at the University of Central Florida. And so I just want to, I'm actually new to my job. I just started in 2017. This is my third year here. So the topic I'm going to talk about today is how human mobility impact air pollution exposures. So this is one of the research direction I'm trying to pursue in the future. And what I'm going to talk about is how we can use cell phone data to better track individuals and how we can harvest this information to make better estimation how humans are impacted by air pollution. So before I start, I really like to thank my collaborators. So my first, this data was provided by Dr. Darshan Zhang from Rutgers University. So this was and also my collaborator Sunny Ivy at the University of California, Riverside, also Dr. Zheng Junyu and Huang Zhijun at Jinan University in China also helping with the data. Dr. Shen and Ted Russell at Georgia Tech also have contributed to this work. Lucas Herniman from Harvard University, Dr. Guoliang Shi from Nankai University, and also Naveen and Samuel from UCF, University of Central Florida. We're in the same department. Okay. So to start, so my research area is on air pollution exposure. So we know air pollution impact human health, and we know that if you expose to long-term exposure to air pollution, you got some health impacts. So in the past, when people try to do the air pollution health impacts, they go to a bunch of patients, they find their medical health record, and then they try to estimate for each individual how much air pollution they're exposed to. What they're going to do this is that they will look at if they divide the population into different categories. So basically, they want to analyze if someone is exposed to higher air pollution concentrations, will you see higher incidence of certain disease outcomes? For example, will you see some higher incidence of asthma, certain higher incidence high blood pressure, anemia, see any health outcome you want to investigate. So here becomes issue because, in the past, with people trying to calculate how much human exposed to air pollution, they use their home addresses. This is one of the compromise they have to do, because if you think about it, if I enroll, for example, 1,000 individuals in my study, I cannot track each individually to their exposure. I can only get their home addresses from medical record. Then I'll run some model and I can get their exposure to air pollution, just estimate as their home locations because it's convenient. You simply do not have data where they have been. This is the issue because if you think about it, air pollution concentrations actually change all the time, especially temporally, right? If you go to different places, the concentration is going to be different. Even in the same location in the rush hour, also in the midnight, the concentration is going to be different. So if we do not properly count how human moves spatially and track how they're exposed along the way, we cannot get an accurate understanding how much pollution they are exposed to. And this can become issue because it will bring something called exposure misclassification error. What this means is if someone was actually exposed to high concentration, but somehow you categorize this individual into a low exposure category, this becomes the issue because you're supposed to categorize this one in a high exposure category, right? So, but in the past, people know this all along, but the thing is you simply do not have the data. How can you track, say, 1,000 individuals throughout the day? It's just not possible in the past. Okay, now what people have been doing right now is that in other fields, for example, in criminal investigation, there is new data called cell phone detail record, CDR. What this CDR data is that, say, if you're using your phone will connect to a nearby cell phone tower, right? And what it does is that the cell phone tower will actually record the time and the duration of your phone call or text message, whatever, like see the data communication, your cell phone tower will record that. The thing with that is, for billing purposes, they will record which cell phone tower is handling the communication, right? They will have to record this. But even though they do not, the cell phone carriers, they do not know your exact location, but they actually know the location of the cell phone towers. They will have to just simply for billing purposes, right? So the problem in this one is that if one cell phone tower is handling communication, you cannot be too far away from the tower, because if you're too far away, the tower will not pick up a signal. So this data is called call detail record. This has been widely used in criminal investigation, but it's possible that you can also use to track individuals and combine with pollution field to get a good understanding how much pollution one individual is exposed to. So on the figure on the right actually shows one individual's cell phone CDR data. It's actually over 300 locations throughout the day. What you can see is, the colors, different colors representing hours. The red hour is toward the midnight. The blue hour is, getting bluer and bluer as toward in the day. And actually, so the background is actually pollution concentration. Here is a particulate matter, fine particulate matter. We talk about what's PM 2.5. So as you can see, from this person's CDR data, you can clearly tell where this person has been. At night, you have hundreds of locations. Although it only looks like 3 location, but it's actually hundreds different locations stacked on each other. It has to be this person's home. And the daytime, you see this person is at another location. It's likely his work, right? So this is how the CDR data is used to get one people's location. So what we did here is that we got cell phone data from Shenzhen, China. If you don't know, Shenzhen is one province, it's a city actually in Guangdong province in China, close to Hong Kong, in borderline of Hong Kong. So, and what we got is just one midweek day. It's just 1 day worth of data, and it's for 35 million people. And that's 35 million records, 310,000 subjects, almost 320,000 subjects. It's a lot of people. And the cell phone data we have is actually a public available record. It's not a violation of privacy because it's public available for research purposes. So to do this, we actually generated 2 concentration fields. The first field we generated using this model called CMAC. Essentially, it's a computer model to generate pollution concentration distributions at 3-kilometer resolution and 1 hour temporal resolution. And the other method we use is called inverse distance weighting. So essentially, we just get 12 stations We just got 12 stations inside the domain, inside the around the Shenzhen area. We spatially interpolate the concentrations to get the field. We focus on 6 different pollutants. PM 2.5 is very, very tiny particles with a diameter of less than 2.5 microns. The width of hair is about 100 microns. Now PM 2.5 is really teeny. And we also got elemental carbon, which is soot, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and ozone. So we did this, we calculate concentrate exposures using 2 different methods. One is called CDR, it's tracking these individuals throughout the day and look at his exposures. The second one is called home-based exposure. Now what this does is essentially, we just get the concentration of this individual's corresponding home locations, and assuming this person stays at home all the time. This is a default assumption in the vast majority of air pollution health studies, simply because they do not have data. So here, what we are just assuming that is the home is the most frequent location at night, because we do not know the exact home addresses, and the night is defined at 8 p.m. through 7 a.m. And note that it's just one day. It's just one day worth of data. And we also categorize the exposure based on how mobile this person is. So essentially, what we did is we simply categorize this all the individuals that we're talking about almost 320,000 people into 10 categories, and each category is corresponding to their unique grid cells visited. For example, category 1, this person throughout the day only visited one grid, only visited one 3-kilometer grid cells, and for example, group 9 visited 9 grid cells. Group 10 is all other people visited 10 or more grid cells. So the higher group number is, the more mobile this person is. So what we did first is that if you look at the concentration fields generated by CMAC and inverse distance weighting, you can see it's clear difference. For CMAC model, its computer model generates the calculated pollution concentration field. You can see a lot of spatial variations of pollution concentrations. You can see a lot of them. This makes sense because within a big city, you would expect huge variations of pollution concentrations, right? But if you look at the inverse distance weighting, you do not see such great variability. It also makes sense because inverse distance weighting is just a simple spatial interpolation. If you do simple spatial interpolation, you only get information at the location you have the data available. In this case, there are only 12 stations within the entire big gigantic study domain, and you do not have a lot of finer scale pollution concentration variations that cannot be captured. You can capture this with CMAC if you have the right input data, but you cannot capture this with inverse distance weighting. You simply do not have the data. Now, this is a quick result showing that the differences between this so-called home-based exposure, which is essentially ignore all the places this individual has been to, versus CDR exposure, which is CDRE, which is you track this individual throughout the day and calculate exposure correspondingly. What you can see is that, you can see a lot of vertical lines. What this means is that for all of these individuals, you have exactly the same home-based exposure because these individuals live inside the same CMAC grid cells. So if you only look at their home locations, you don't see any differences because they live in the same place. You just assume they just stay at home all the time, a common assumption, but it's not. If you track these individuals throughout the day, you do see that their exposure actually varies greatly. So this tells you, if you want to do a good job in estimating exposures, one individual exposure to air pollution, you have to consider each individual's spatial temporal mobility, how this person is moving around all the time. You have to do this, or you're going to make some mistakes. And you can see this for all the pollutants. Now this results are obtained using the CMAC model, because community multi-skill model. But actually, if you look at inverse distance field, you see nothing. So what you see is a bunch of points clustered together. Note that this is in the same scale. Now, this tells you, well, because you want to track people, right? You want to track people around to see how they're exposed to air pollution. And to do this, you have to make sure that you characterize the pollution concentration at where people is moving. You have to capture a spatial variation. If you have the same concentration constant everywhere, it doesn't matter where this person moves. It doesn't matter because you got exactly the same values, right? But if you actually use inverse distance weighting field in this case, which is a simple spatial interpolation, you get nothing. Even though you have such a rich data set, the benefits gained by using the data set just gone because you do not have a good concentration field. This tells us that we need to have a good characterization of the spatial pollution concentration distributions, to capture a good concentration exposures if you have the good mobility data set, right? Now, so this is the results if you look at, for 10 different groups. Note that the higher group numbers corresponding to higher mobility. I'm hoping that you can take a look at the sample size first. The sample size at the bottom of the column. What you can see is at each group, you have a lot of people in each group. Although we have 10 groups, that's a lot of groups, but in each group, you have a lot of people. Simply because the total sample size is a big number in the study. And if you look at the Cmac versus IDW concentration field, if you look at the mean exposures, you look at the CDRE and HBE, home-based, the CDR-based, and the first thing you see is they're actually quite close, surprisingly close to each other on average. What this tells us is that, well, if you are only interested in, for example, the mean average exposure for entire group, well, you probably don't need to have such a big data set to track individual because their average exposure is very similar, right? So why bother have so much effort spending just tracking each one? It's going to be the same, very similar. This study actually, this same conclusion has been found in many other studies. But if you look at their correlations, if you look at the correlations between home-based exposure and CDR-based exposure, you do see that with increased movement, you see the correlation R squared actually decreases. What this tells us is that although if someone is more mobile, you do see that their average exposure is roughly the same, but the thing is that their individual level, you see great variability. That's why you see lowered correlations, lowered R squared values, and increased mean normalized by error. That's what MNE stands for, mean normalized error. You see increased error, you see decreased correlation. What it tells you that at population, if you're only interested in the average exposure, you don't really care too much about individual level mobility. But if you're really interested in individual level exposures, you got to consider mobility, how these people move. Now, this further tells you that, these different colors corresponding to, so the pink color corresponding to result using CMAC, and the little bluish colors corresponding to the results obtained using IDW, inverse distance weighting. What this one tells you is with increased mobility, if someone is more mobile, you see larger variability. The concentration just the range of variation actually changes a lot. But you only see, the variability is actually much greater if you're using CMAC rather than IDW. Makes sense because CMAC captures spatial variation. IDW give you a smooth field. So the benefit you gain by using detailed mobility data actually decreases if you're using a smooth field. Now this is the temporal analysis. What this means is that if you look at hourly differences, this is one data. If you look at the difference every single hour, what you can see is that, interesting, for carbon monoxide, for NO2, for PM2.5, what you can see is that at afternoon rush hour, which is around 5, 6, 7 p.m. in the afternoon rush hour, you see a big differences. right? You see a big differences. And during nighttime, that you see the differences actually become small. And what I tell you is that it makes sense because if you think about it, right? If you think about it, if someone actually travels to work, right, at night, this one is actually likely to be at home. So whether you track his location, her location or not, it doesn't make differences because simply this guy is at home. If you track, you do not track, it's still at home. It's the same. But at daytime, especially at travel time, is going to be different. This guy is likely to be traveling, right? But if you're assuming him or she is at home, you are making the wrong assumption. So another thing, interesting observation, if you look at ozone, you see the big opposite differences at mid-afternoon hours, which is, if you're familiar with ozone, you know ozone concentration is going to be highest in this hour because ozone is a photochemical pollutant. What this tells you is that okay, if you ignore an individual's movement throughout a day, what you're going to end up having is big difference for CO, NO2, and PM 2.5 at rush hours, and an opposite difference in ozone in near afternoon rush hours. And what this tells you is that you're going to have some errors in your estimation. Now, these results are using CMAC results. If you look at inverse distance weighting, you see basically it's a random variation. You don't see a lot of differences. It again comes back to the rationale is because we need to use a method that captures well the spatial variability of pollution concentrations if you want to benefit from the detailed mobility data you have. Okay. Now, next one is this one is a little bit messy, so I'll just please bear with me for a moment. This one basically is telling you. This one shows you the p-value. This one is if a p-value is less than 0.05, it's a statistical metric. This means is that your CDR for this entire group, the exposure you get from the exposure you get from tracking or not tracking, home-based or not home-based, is different. So if you see the number drops below the black line, it means it's different. What it tells you is that at daytime, you see at daytime, which is normal business hours, you're gonna see quite different. This at nighttime, the p-value drops increase a lot. What you're going to see is that, okay, at nighttime, you do not see differences. At daytime, you do see differences. It makes sense because at daytime, people move. They go out their home, they go work, they go, find somewhere. You will see a difference if you assume this guy is at home. But at nighttime, likely they will be at home, so you do not see a difference. It makes sense. Now, this is exposure misclassification errors. If we are assuming CDR is actually if you are assuming CDR is the ground truth, what you're going to have is that if you look at home-based exposures versus CDR exposures, and if you look at how people are categorized into different categories, so the quartiles actually, the categories of where people are, what you're going to find is with increased group number, please, I hope that you can see this. This is group 2, this is group 6, and this is group 10. What you're going to say is with increased group number, which is increased mobility, you see bigger and bigger, you see more and more people misclassified into the wrong category. For example, in this group 6, you see 50% of quartile 2 was misclassified. They are incorrectly classified into group 3. And what is it telling you is that, well, you're going to have a big issue in your analysis because these people were supposed to have lower exposures, but you throw them into higher exposure categories. Now, even say this is getting the result getting you the CMAC. Now, this is the result getting you, even with inverse distance weighting, you still see a huge errors. This is problematic because for air pollution health studies, what you want to do is you want to have an accurate estimation. You want to accurately estimate the associations. For example, increase in 10 micrograms of pollution concentration give you maybe, say, 2% chance of increased chance of some disease, for example, cancer. right? You want to make this number accurate because this number is quite important in designing policies. If you do not here, in this case, if you do not consider one person's movement throughout the day, you incorrectly assign people to different groups that actually introduce errors in your estimation. What's that going to give you is actually this. So this is so-called bias factors. So, bias factor is, if you have bias factor 1, it means, well, track or not track, it's the same. But if you bias factor of less than 1, for example, the lowest bias factor is nitrogen dioxide at around 0.7667. What this means is, you only estimated 67% of the effect. You actually underestimated 33% of the effect. You don't want to do that because you are making air pollution looks benign. They are not, right? So what you can say, the bias factor is all less than 1. Simply means that if you do not consider people's movement, simply you actually underestimate pollution exposure, pollution impact for all the pollutant, especially for those who moves a lot in the bigger categories. You can see the bias factor is smaller and smaller with increased movement. This is the same for inverse distance weighting and for CMAC. Now the next one is that, okay, just the key takeaways is from this study is simply because, people move all the time, right? We need to consider movement, to better estimate impact air pollution on human health. But the thing is that if you only interested in mean population level average exposure, it doesn't matter because you do not see considerable differences between home-based and non-home-based exposure. It's the same. So if you're only interested in average exposures, the home-based method is still informative. It's still informative because you got the same results, and you can bypass all the hassles, collecting data, getting IRB, in review, ethics committee review, and all kinds of different processes. You can just bypass them. You don't need them. But the thing is, if you're interested in individual level, exposures, you have to think about it. Is it a good idea to ignore this person's movement? Because the more mobile this person is, you're going to see higher exposure misclassification. You're going to underestimate exposures, right? You don't want to do this in your study. So this is especially true that we see that hourly analysis, we see is that if you assuming this person stays at home all the time, you underestimate this one is exposure for this. I mentioned traffic-related pollutant. We're talking about the carbon monoxide. We're talking about PM 2.5 and nitrogen dioxide in the afternoon rush hour, and you overestimate ozone exposure at mid-afternoon. So this is a quite interesting findings. So the thing with CDR is that I assume many of you are already worried because it's a clear violation of privacy, but no worries here because in this study, we are using a publicly available CDR database for research purposes only. It's a publicly available CDR only for research. So the good thing with CDR is it's widely available. If you use cell phone, you have CDR. Whether you like it or not, you have CDR. So in the United States, it covers about 98% of population. No matter what phone you are using a smart iPhone, iPhone 11 Max Pro, Samsung Galaxy 20, whatever, like over the so expensive phone versus if you are using black and white Nokia, I don't know, 1110, you have CDR. That's just how it is. You would have it. So the concern is that, as you can tell, that CDR is private. It contains a lot of private information. You can track an individual accurately throughout the day. So if you're not familiar with CDR is the call detail record. It's called detail record. Essentially, it simply tells you at what time, your phone connected to which cell phone tower for how long. So that actually you can use this data to infer. You can use data to infer where this person has been to. It has tremendous amount of personal information. In 2018, the Supreme Court in the United States had ruled that CDR is private. You cannot access it. And what happened is this guy Carpenter is a thief. He steals a bunch of stores and in several states in the United States. And he has been running around, and people, the police can't catch him. But police actually use CDR to track down its individual. Now this becomes an issue because it's supposed to be private, right? So that he actually won this case. So from 2018 in the United States, you cannot get CDR at all. You cannot. But luckily, we have this openly publicly available data set, so we can use to investigate. So because now CDR is so private, you cannot get it. So what if I still want to do research? Are there any alternatives? Ideally, what I want this data to be is, first, it's easy to access, right? I want it to be accurate. I want to be completely capture the whole range of movement this person have, and I want to have a good population coverage, right? I want to have this data set to actually cover a good chunk population, and I want to have this person have a good historical availability. If I want to go back maybe a year, I want that. But as you can see, this is getting to a scary territory, right? So the thing is, are there anything like this? There are actually. If you use Google's phone, Android phone, you have Google Maps. You will likely have Google Maps, right? So the thing with Google Maps is, in Google Maps, you have Google Maps location history. I call it GMLH. You have Google Map location history. Now, Google Maps is very popular. I think needless to say, everyone knows it's so popular right now. Everyone is using it, right? So the thing is, if you have Google Maps, you have Google Maps turned on, then Google Maps location history turned on, Google Maps will track your location continuously in the background. Whether you like it or not, it's tracking you. So, and you can disable this, of course. You can delete your data, whatever, but it's tracking you. So the thing I want to find out is Google Map data very easily to access with permission, of course? And is it accurate? Is it complete? Is it good? What's the population that have Google Maps, and how far back Google Maps data can give me? You can tell if I have if Google Maps is perfect, I can go to every individual, ask their permission. Do you mind if I get your data? For research, of course. I'm not going to be a completely strange guy just picking where you have been in the past days. No, then it's only for research. I want to investigate health impacts, right? So the thing is that we don't know. All of these things we don't know because you don't have a lot of studied on this. So what I did is actually I carried a Android phone with me for about a week, and also carried a GPS tracker with me. It's individual device. The GPS tracker tracks my location every 10 seconds. And I place the phone in my pocket. I don't use it, just as the background information. So I want to know that is that at the end of the week, I compared the Google Maps data with the GPS data. GPS is the ground truth. I want to see, is it accurate? Is it complete? And what is the coverage? Like how many people have it? And as for the first, accessibility, it's very easy because if you have Google Maps, if you use Google Takeout, it's a website. You can get it just a few clicks. You can get it within minutes. So it's really easy. So now if you look at this is the results. If you compare Google Maps data, Google Maps location history with the GPS tracker, what you see is that it's really accurate. What you can see now, this is the daily data. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, 5, 6, 7. Now this final figure is all the data from all days combined together. Now this is divided at 1 kilometer resolution, by the way. So what you can see is that Google Maps location history, captures my movement, my own personal movement in that week very well, down to minutes level accuracy, very, very well. Now the thing is that, okay, that's just 1 kilometer resolution, kind of rough, right? What about I want it maybe even more accurate? So even at this is at this is at 1 kilometer, this is at 500 kilometer, 200 kilometer, and 100 meter. What you can see is at 500 meter, well, it's still reasonably accurate. You do see some distortion noise comes on, and at 200 kilometer and 100 meter, you see Google Maps data is actually starting to lose. So it's everywhere. So the thing is that, the Android phone I'm using is it's old Android phone. It's quite old. It's several years old. It's just my personal old phone. Now, maybe you have a better cell phone. If you have a newer cell phone, the data may be more accurate. So the thing is, I want to know more, like, does it even capture my driving time? And this is my driving time. I simply define this as if my speed is over 15 kilometers per hour, I just assume I'm driving. If you look at this figure, now this driving is actually in dark lines, in black lines. Now this, GPS driving time, estimated using GPS, Google Maps driving time, estimated using Google Maps, is triangle versus square. You see, they actually agrees quite well. This tells me that Google Maps track my driving time. I can use Google Maps to infer my driving time every day. Pretty good. And then if I use exposures, now the exposure calculated using satellite aerosol optical depth data, essentially it's a satellite imagery. I want to capture that, my daily exposure 2 p.m. to particulate matters. Well, I can see that, okay, it still tracks my exposure very well. And even say, what if, say, does Google Maps capture the location I've been to? Now, this is 10 different locations I've been to, including my home, my work, and some grocery store I went to buy some vegetables, meat, something like that. So it's everywhere I've been to in the 10 different locations, 10 different unique locations in that past week. What I see that Google Maps is actually capture my time spent in 10 different places, I call it microenvironments, very well. Also down to minutes level accuracy. Now, the last question is, okay, but the thing is, how many people have it though, right? If only a few people have it, it doesn't make much sense because, if I want to do an air pollution health study, I don't know who I'm going to select. It's better to have a good spatial coverage. But essentially, I simply do a quick survey on Amazon. And, if you're not familiar, it's called platform called Mechanical Turk. I did a quick survey on Amazon. What I found is 61% of the population in the United States have Google Maps data available on their phone. 61%. It's a quite decent number. Then the next question is, how far back does it available though? I did not do this question, but there are some kind of recent study saying that, Google Maps data can date back over a year. For my own data, it dates back to 2015. So that's what I talk about, 5 years of data, daily, every single day, where I've been to, Google knows it. So the thing is, to recap this, Google Maps is accessibility. It's very easy to access. You simply use Google Takeout. Accuracy is down to 200 meters. Completeness is a reasonable complete. It almost captures where all the places I've been to. It's available at least in the United States, available at 61%. Historical availability dates back over a year. That's a lot of time. So this tells me that, in the case that core data record CDR is not available, Google Maps is a good alternative. If you are interested in individual movement, if you want to use this data to improve your air pollution health exposure estimation, if you want to do epidemiology studies, historical epidemiology studies, Google Maps is a good alternative. But the thing is, no one have ever used Google Maps in a real health study. No, it's unexplored territory here. So that's all I have for this presentation. Thank you very much. I really appreciate. Thanks again for inviting me. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you very much. All right, I'll be taking any questions if you have any. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor. This particular presentation was very new for us in this situation, and a lot of questions are available. Shall I read it one by one?
Any
Professor,
questions?
can you hear me? Can you hear me, Professor? Can you hear me? Professor, can you hear me?
All right. So okay, yeah. Sorry for the technical difficulty. So it's if someone is talking to me, sorry, I cannot hear anything. I saw that like no one is talking. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, please. Any question for me? Okay. Okay.
Professor, can you hear me now? Professor, can you hear me? Professor?
Hello. Sorry, I think
Sir, can
I
you hear me?
can't. Oh yeah, now I can hear you now. Perfect. All right. Sorry for
Yeah,
technical
fine.
difficulty. I tested
Yeah.
yesterday for several times. I'm not sure why it's not working.
Yeah. A few questions are available. Shall I read it out one by one?
Okay. Yeah, one by one will be fine. Yeah.
First question. Due to higher mobility, higher exposure, misclassification occurs. How do we can overcome it?
Well, you mean how do we overcome how do we better estimate the mobility impact exposure, right?
Yes.
Okay, that there have been several different methods about this, and so the most important thing is apparently the two things. First, that you want to better track this individual. You want better to know where this individual has been, and second one is you generate a good, pollution field that can tells you that pollution field will tells you that the good spatial temporal distribution of pollution concentrations. Then you combine them together. So for the first part is you better track this individual. There are many ways of doing this nowadays. A method commonly used is surveys. You go to this person, and then you ask for, can I get your location information? And you go, basically you interview this person. This person tells you where he has been in the past several days maybe. And you can also install an app on this person's phone with permission, of course. Then this app will track this individual's location. And there are many ways of doing this. For generating pollution field, what you can do is mostly doing is running air quality models to either it's a simple distance weighting, inverse distance weighting, as we mentioned, or what you can use is advanced numerical models to give you a good spatial field. Then you combine them together, like using detailed time, temporal, and spatial information to give you a good estimate. Hope that answered the question.
Yes, sir. Next question. Whether this software can be used for secondary air pollutants?
Yes. So inverse distance weighting, I am not sure, but for CMAQ is designed for secondary air pollutants. So as you can tell, ozone, CMAC is designed for modeling ozones. So as you know, ozone is a secondary air pollution. It's designed for that purposes. It works well for that.
One more question, Professor. As in this pandemic time, we people are not moving, so our movement is restricted. So
Yes.
in many articles in a newspaper and a few short-term researchers are telling that ozone layer hole is reduced. That is, it is filling up all the places above the Antarctica and above the Arctic places. Whether this thickness of the layer will be reduced if we start to work.
Well, that is going to be honest, I do not fully know the answer, because as you know, ozone layer is that actually its own, ozone. Why ozone layer depleting is because we know that is because chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs. Those actually quite different pollutants. They are not coming from cars. They are coming from industrial processes. So, whether COVID-19 pandemic is impacting the emission of chlorofluorocarbons, I don't know. And no, I haven't seen any data on this. So, but the only thing we know is COVID-19 does impact people's movement. No one is driving. So we know traffic pollutant is going down dramatically. But for ozone layer, that is probably need more investigation into that.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Professor.
You are more than welcome. By the way, I did see one question someone posted on what is CDR.
Yes.
So let me switch back to the CDR is actually called call data record. Now, what this one does is if your phone connects to a cell phone tower will record the time, the ID of the cell phone tower handles the communication, and those information can be used to infer the caller's location. You are not exactly at the location of cell phone tower, but you are not so far away from it. Okay.
And one more question, Professor.
Oh, okay.
In the GMLH, can we trace the mobility if the accident occurs in highway?
Actually, you can with a reasonable accuracy. So if you actually go to Google Takeout, so if you actually if you own a Google, if you own a phone, either it's Android or iPhone, and you go to Google, you can Google Google Maps timeline. You can go there and you can take a look at that. Take a look at your own data. So you can actually track the route where you have been to, the route you are using. It's with a very good accuracy. So turn by turn, which corner you went to, Google tracks pretty well.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you
No
for
problem.
your valuable session. And initially, I didn't give an introduction to you as we started. Shall I give a few brief about that? Yes, of course. People will be knowing about you and the research, what are all going in other countries, so that they will have an idea, because a lot of research students are available in this meet. Shall I? Our professor, Dr. Hafu Yu, is working as an assistant professor in environmental engineering, University of Central Florida, and he was had his postdoctorate at Georgia Institute of Technology, and he worked in the lab called Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. He did his PhD from University of South Florida, and our professor is having a lot of interest in research based on air quality modeling, emission estimation, exposure assessment, and low-cost air quality sensors. And he is a very outstanding performer in Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, and he got a scholarship from USF. This is a brief. And I want to thank our professor for this valuable 1 hour session. And in behalf of our management, Easwari Engineering College, I want to thank all of the participants and our professor. And in this pandemic time, we are spending a valuable time in this 1 hour, so that we are getting a lot of new techniques and knowledges from various countries, so that in India, the people, that is the lecturers, professors, and students can able to observe it, and as well as they can able to disseminate to others for research as well as for the study purpose. I think this session is a wonderful session. And I think I want to thank once again our organizers, Madam Jyoti Lakshmi Madam, and I want to thank all of our faculty and students who gave a lot of support to us. I once again thank our Professor Hafu Yu for this wonderful speech.
You're more
Thank
than
you, sir.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Participants, sorry for the inconvenience. Now the link will be working. You can click it. You can give the feedback there. Participants, the link is working.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. And participants, tomorrow we having another session at 5:30 p.m. And industrialist Mr. Bentley will be having a session in structure, in Pro plus B slab, so that it will be a new and technique which is used in South Africa, and he will be explaining about that. So I request all of our participants to join tomorrow also at 5:30 p.m. with the same Google Meet link. The link will not be changed, it will be same. Thank you for your participation.
Sorry for the interruption, sir.
Yes, please let me know.
Yeah, we would like to share the yesterday's link, sir.
No problem, sir. No
the
problem. We will give the participation certificate to all of our participants, because yesterday's link we have closed it, and you can use the today's link. No problem.
Yeah, just now I fill up the details.
Fine, sir. No problem.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Participants, don't share your screen.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Sir, how was the session? Does not working choose the any questions?
Which one, sir? Session drop down, isn't it? Drop down. Yeah. If your browser or if it is not compatible with your device, it won't work, sir. I think the link will be working for next few hours, so that you can close your browser and then you can refresh it, or otherwise you try Google Chrome or Firefox Mozilla. You can shift it, because many people are having this problem, so that they can shift the browser or they can refresh it.
Okay, okay.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
In the feedback form,
Yes.
how was the session is not opening, sir? The
Yes,
option is
sir.
not coming.
Your browser or your device cannot able to respond it, so that you have to update your browser, or otherwise you can refresh it and you can try it, sir.
Sir, hello.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
No, sir. Same problem. How was the session? So change the browser, but not working.
Okay, sir. Please wait. I will change the Google form. Please wait. I will change it, and then you can able to go with it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Someone of you please check.
Yes, sir, it is working, sir.
Yes, sir. Many people are having that browser problem,
Yes,
and they could not able to do it. Just now I changed the option so that they can click it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mr. Dinesh Gavatri, is it working now?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Sir, just 2 minutes. Option 1. Okay, sir.
Now it is coming, isn't it?
Hello, sir. Excuse me.
Yes, madam.
Sir, we are attending in YouTube Live, but
Okay.
the link is not provided there.
Okay, I will inform to our
Okay, okay.
coordinators. Yeah, sir.
Okay, sir.
sir. Good evening, sir.
Thank you, sir. Nice session. Okay.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Sir,
Good evening.
how was the session is not functioning, sir? We can't submit how was the session.
So please try
Hello?
again, sir. Please try, refresh your browser and please try again.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, in the feedback,
Yeah, tell me, sir.
I can't able to submit my feedback.
So just refresh the page, and then you can submit it, sir.
Sir, I had refreshed one and again I had submitted, sir.
Okay, sir.
But the problem is, how was the session in that question?
Yeah.
The options are coming 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay. You select
But
any one
it's,
number, and
very
then you
good,
can give, sir.
excellent.
Yes, sir. From 1 to 5, you can rate the question, and you can submit it, sir.
Yeah, okay, sir. But in 5, what is the option? I don't know.
That is
Whether it is
from.
excellent, very good, like that. The options are not coming, sir.
Okay, so that is.
Mr. Karthik, sir, we have removed that one so that no need to fill that. So you can
Fine.
submit the form.
Fine, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Surendra, sir, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I think so. Most of them have completed, sir.
Yes, sir. Others may not be actively here.
Yes, yes.
I
Yes.
think.
Let us wait for
Yeah.
2 more minutes, and we'll close.
Yes,
Sir.
yes, yes.
Okay, sir. Daya, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, in YouTube, feedback link is not available, sir.
இல்ல சார் மேம் போட்டுட்டு இருக்கேன்னு சொன்னாங்க சார்
நான்
இப்ப நான்
இப்ப
கால்
கூட
பண்ணி
போட்டுட்டு தான் சார் இருக்கேன் ஆனா அது ஏன் போக மாட்டேங்குதுன்னு தெரியல பேஸ்ட் ஆகுது ஆனா அவங்களுக்கு காட்ட மாட்டேங்குது போல நான் போட்டுட்டே தான் இருக்கேன் நோ போடுறாங்க பதில் என்ன பிரச்சனைன்னு தெரியல எனக்கு